Hello, welcome to Journeys of MACSA Podcast. I'm here today with Dr. Jimmy Cheung, who's a piano instructor here at MACSA. Welcome to the show, Jimmy.
Thanks for having me, Ken.
Glad to have you here. It's fun to actually get a chance to talk with you in this format. I've watched you on several other podcasts, and now I get my chance to ask you some questions and explore your journey a little bit. You've had quite an international life.
Yes.
Been all over the world, ending up in San Antonio, Texas. I'm not sure when you started out in Hong Kong if you thought someday I'm going to be in San Antonio, Texas. Was that on your mind?
No, never. I mean, the only thing I knew about San Antonio, I guess, was the basketball team, the Spurs.
Okay, now that's pretty awesome. So you knew about the Spurs back in Hong Kong?
Yes, because one of my best friends,
Okay.
his name is Antonio, ironically, and
okay.
he's a big fan of the team. So
Fantastic. Okay, well that's pretty cool that we have some. We have a street cred as far as basketball goes and all the way in Hong Kong. And actually, I'm also very proud of our music scene here as well, which we're going to get into a little bit later. But you went from Hong Kong, then to London,
yes,
then to Cincinnati, then to San Antonio.
Yeah.
So we're going to get into this journey, but I wanted to kind of outline for everyone a little bit of the overview, because it's a pretty awesome journey. So let's go way back in time. Now you started at what age? What age did you start piano?
So I guess the first time I got a taste of the instrument could be when I was like 5 years old.
5 years
or so.
old.
So
Okay.
I was playing with the pianos at one of the music stores that's very close by, and that's when my parents noticed that, and they decided to start me on a lesson.
Okay, so this is interesting. So you're something. So there was a store nearby, and do you remember? I mean, this is a long time ago. Not everybody remembers when they're 5, but do you remember like what was it about the piano? I mean, were there other things in the store? Were there drums? Were there trumpets? And you just gravitated towards piano, or tell me about that. Do you remember like what was it about the piano that drew you?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, that's quite a big store, so there's also a lot of other instruments as well. But I remember I don't think I've ever touched any instruments but the piano.
Really?
And I
Okay.
think it is the sound that really draws me into it, because to this days I still find, there's unlimited possibility of sound that you can make from the piano and the keyboards. And also, when you're young, you keep pushing a pedal and you find out, you can actually change the sound or like hold a note. That's something that's really fascinating to me.
Right. So in a way, okay. So this is again getting back to our journeys theme here. So here you are at age 5, and you go into the store. Something draws you. Experiment. You probably play it, and you're like fascinated by the sound. Of course, there's high sounds, there's low sounds, and it's also one of the things about. I think what's fun with kids is, of course, it's easier to make a sound on a piano than a trumpet, for example.
Exactly, yeah.
And then you discover the pedal and all that, the world of sound that's in there. So what do you think that your parents? So they saw that you were, obviously interested in, and what? But not all parents would be like, well, let's put this person in piano. So what do you think? Was there something in their background that had to like put them in, like made them respect, I guess, music lessons? Was there something there? You know what I mean? Like, why did they support you, do you think?
Well, so I don't come from a musical family, but I'm very fortunate to have very supportive parents who are also very appreciative of music in general. My mom used to play a little bit of erhu. It's a Chinese strings instrument, and I remember my dad maybe play the cello at some point for a couple months. But they are very supportive of my musical choice.
Yeah.
So that's why when I was doodling in the store, they decided to start me on lessons.
Okay, that's awesome. So that's kind of cool. They'd had some exposure to music, and then they recognized that in you, and they wanted to stimulate you, and then they did that. So do you remember like your first lessons or your first teacher?
I think so. To be honest, when I started lesson at 5, it didn't last long.
Okay.
It was a couple months, and then I think I was just maybe too small and also not focusing enough. So in the end, I kind of have to stop lesson for a couple while. But again, thanks to my parents, they never gave up on me. So by the time when I got older, I got back into lesson again. So I remember the first teacher. She was young, but she was super patient.
This is the
with
5-year-old.
me. Yes, yes.
Okay,
and
okay,
actually,
okay.
I went back to the same teacher
Oh,
after that
okay,
as well.
okay.
So she was always very patient with me. I was the kind of kid that couldn't really sit still for a period of time. So yes, it was difficult in the beginning, but again, I guess from the patience from the teacher and also the continuous support, like my parents didn't just let me give up and then call it a day, and that kind of made me eventually stay. And also, as much as I don't like sitting still, I love the piano, I love music, so I guess that's also another reason why I stayed in the end.
That's really interesting. Okay, so you started at 5. This is good. This is part of what I think is so interesting to talk about, because parents, sometimes you'll hit those bumps in the road on the journey, right? Like, oh no, I meaning maybe I need to take a break, even though I'm only a few months into this. Understanding that, well, you can circle back to when you are ready. And first teacher is the most important teacher, and I feel, because usually that experience really sets you up for success. So it's interesting that you did return to the same teacher. Patience is a big issue.
Yes.
Patience is a huge issue. I think that relationship is so critical. Do you remember how long about it was that you took a break? Was it like a year, or was it?
Maybe about a year or two, and then I kind of got back when I was around like 7 or 8.
Years old.
Yeah.
Okay, that's when looking back in time, that doesn't seem like very long, but at the moment that your parents are wondering if you're going to go back into it, that was probably quite a while. Do you remember if they had when you were 5, had they gotten a keyboard for you to practice on in your house?
Yes, actually, I think one of my aunt has a keyboard because she used to play the piano, so it was like a 61 key unweighted Yamaha keyboard.
Got to start with something.
But again, the touch may not be the greatest, but it has again a lot of sound possibilities. So I can play around. I can change it to a violin. I can change the different sound. Again, it is the sound aspect that kind of attracts me into. I'm a very auditory learning person.
I've discovered that too.
So I'm very sensitive to sound, and that's again what draws my attention into it.
So you had something then to experiment. Do you remember in that break, were you experimenting?
Yeah,
still?
I was still playing during that break.
Okay.
And also I had a older cousin who used to play the piano. So sometimes when we go and visit her, she has an acoustic piano at home. And
kinda cool.
Yes, and I didn't have a lot of experience with acoustic piano back then. So every time when I go there, I would just keep playing.
Yes.
And then the adults would be like, "Shh, we're talking. Can you stop playing?"
Isn't that great? So okay. So in a way, like it's like you stopped lessons, but you didn't stop music exploring. And so it was just at 5, for where you were. And you know what? Actually, that break probably saved you in a way, because had you been like forced to stay, it may have been that you would have been, or the teacher had not been patient. Perhaps they would have addressed it. They probably got mad at you for moving around so much, and in fact, by waiting, giving you some time until you were ready to really absorb the lessons, you could come back in and you were ready for that experience. Okay, that's really, really amazing. So now, so you're with this teacher then at 7 or 8, and at what point did you stay with that teacher then through high school, or did you switch at some point?
So I believe I stayed with that teacher for a couple years until she has to leave the place that she worked. I think because back then I think she was a college student, I believe. So she
what's
graduated.
Her name, by the way? Because
I don't.
You don't know. We should find out. We should find out. We should show her this podcast.
Yes,
that would be really cool.
We've lost touch since then, but I remember. I still remember our lessons. So. And then after that, I switched into another teacher.
Okay.
That was probably when I was like 10 or so. And that teacher really pushed me. The second teacher, she is a little bit older, so I guess she has a lot more experience working with students of higher level in particular. So she really pushed me. She gave me. That's also the time when I first started participating in youth competitions and stuff and she introduces me to the concept of recitals or playing in the mall. So she always has a lot of activities for her students.
So at that point, so you move, and that's actually a good time, usually between about 10 to like 14, that range where you sort of start to see people that either the teacher they're currently with has to sort of change their tactics a bit, or they need to switch to someone who's a little bit more demanding, because you kind of need that push sometimes at that age. So you got exposed to recitals, you got exposed to competitions. I believe you told me a story that about that. Is it true that the first competition you were in, you didn't realize it was a competition? Is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
okay.
it was that teacher.
Okay.
I think she tricked me.
She tricked
She's
you.
like, just it's
For
just
your
a
own
recital.
good. Yes, for your own good. So tell. I like that story. So share with us what happened with that story.
So she is the kind of teacher, the second teacher. She's the kind of teacher that is really good at hyping students up
Okay.
and having the whole
Building
events
them
up.
Yeah, okay.
So she's like, oh, you're going to play this piece that's written by, I remember the K1, actually, the Minuet by Mozart.
Oh,
and she's like, oh, Mozart
fabulous.
wrote that when he was 5.
Right. Okay.
Right?
What were you doing at 5? Right. Okay.
Yes. So
Right.
and then I feel very proud that the fact that I was playing the first composition by one of the greatest composers.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I keep telling my friends, well, hey, I'm playing this piece and it's really great. And then that competition, it's not a big competition, but it just happened to be held in one of the largest concert halls in Hong Kong.
Oh, wow.
So,
Okay.
and I have to dress up, and
Right,
it's the
right.
bright stage light.
Yes, very
with
different
the,
experience.
Steinway
Concert
concert
grand.
grand,
Oh my gosh.
piano. Yes.
Wow,
So
okay.
she really hyped that up, and I had a great time like performing on stage. And I think I won 3rd prize or something.
Oh,
I don't remember.
fantastic.
Yeah.
That is an interesting. That's another interesting tactic. She gets you excited about it. Doesn't really explain what a competition is, but just puts you in it. Actually, I kind of like that in a way, because then you didn't have preconceived notions, which you wouldn't have accurate preconceived notions anyway, because you'd never done it before. Yeah. So what did that do? Like that experience, was that kind of like intriguing, or was it scary? Was it both? What would you say?
I remember my jacket was bothering me.
Okay.
That's the first thing, because I'm not used to wearing bulky
Right, of
jackets
course,
and playing at
yeah.
the same time. But other than that, I really enjoy the experience because just even backstage interacting, I was just playing with other kids.
Other
so
kids,
you
right, who are
didn't
into
really
music,
feel like
yeah.
it's very stressful or
Yeah,
nervous
yeah,
event.
yeah.
I remember just playing with friends, and then my name is called, and then okay, I have to
Go on
play
stage and play
Yeah.
this thing. Okay, that's so interesting. I'm just having this image in my mind. Little Jimmy in his bulky jacket. You could say going on this piano that probably weighs like 30 times more than you did. It must have been quite. And the silence. I know, like that silence when you sometimes backstage when there's a lot of energy, and then you walk out and there's just that. Maybe applause, but you know what I'm talking about. That sense of the stage. Amazing. Okay, so you had that experience, and then, what's the name of that teacher?
Well, I know her last name is Miss Pang.
Miss
P-E-N-G.
Pang. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. The reason I like it if people are comfortable naming a teacher that was positive for them.
Yes, definitely.
I think we sometimes, like when we get to, I was guilty of this too. Then I completely changed my bios to put all of my teachers in. Because when we sometimes don't name those teachers that were so critical for us in that early stage, we never would have gotten to the quote unquote big name teachers without those people. And anyway, I think that's really important. So, okay, so did you stay with this teacher through all of high school, or did you switch eventually?
I actually stayed with her for a couple years until I was about 12. So
Okay.
when students are 12, that's usually the time where they enter middle school, or what we call it secondary school in Hong Kong. And so in Hong Kong, we have only one music conservatory. It's the Hong Kong Academy for Performing Arts. And they have a pretty well-known junior music program, which is similar to the prep department.
Oh, okay, sure.
In the States.
Sure. Right.
So, think of like Juilliard
Of
Prep.
course, Juilliard Prep, Eastman has one
So,
too,
or Eastman, yeah. So this is because I think my parents, seeing that I'm starting to get serious into it, and also, parents talk to each other.
Of course.
So
right.
This is a program that I think if you wanted to get into the next level in Hong Kong back then, I'm sure that there's a lot more teachers right now. But back then, if you really want to get into the next level, this is the program to go to. But it's pretty competitive, so you have to audition for that.
Right.
And I know for a fact that when based on my age, that was when I was 12, I was considered pretty old
Oh, really?
for that program, because usually people start when they are like 8 or 9.
Oh wow!
So, yeah.
Okay, so you were the old man.
Yes, and I confirmed this because when I got in that year, I was the oldest student to be accepted.
Amazing. Okay. Wow.
Yes, so
okay.
I went into audition for that, and I think I tried it twice because the first time they didn't accept me, and then I went back in the next year. Still remember what I play. I play the Chopin Fantasy Impromptu.
Oh wow! Okay.
So I auditioned that, and then the second time they accepted me.
Okay. Did you do the same audition repertoire the second time?
No, I don't remember what I played the first time, but the first time I didn't really prepare it very well either.
Okay,
so, yeah.
Yeah. You know, I appreciate you telling me that because this is one of the things that I try to tell people too. Like when we read somebody's bio, they usually are not listing. I mean, or if you, or you know, this goes for like Prokofiev too and Rachmaninoff. They don't usually list like, oh, I didn't make this, this didn't work. And you can get a skewed view of a journey and think that, you know, that, oh, it just worked out every time. And in fact, it doesn't usually work like that. And usually you have to read their biographies, right? Then you see their struggles. You like Beethoven's biographies. He had massive struggles, you know, and in fact, I think it enriches our understanding of someone's music and art making when you understand the struggles. So you probably, you know, it was a little bit of a wake up call, I guess, that first time, and then you were like, okay, I'm assuming like you got determined, because you wanted to be in this program, and then so then in that program, did you have one teacher then the whole rest of the time? Okay,
and then
who was that teacher?
And then I got with her. So her name is Miss Amelia Chan.
Okay.
So this teacher, I actually stayed with her from the age of 12 all the way into high school. And
that's a very formative time as a musician.
Yeah, so I spent 6 years with her.
Okay.
And I remember our lesson time is always on a Sunday, 9 a.m.
Oh, okay.
And so I live very far from her studio.
Oh,
so
man. Okay.
every Sunday it's an early morning for me where I have to take the subway for an hour.
Wow. Okay.
Yes.
Wait. So you get up. What time would you get up to get?
Maybe 7:30. I'm pretty quick.
Okay. So you get up
ready.
in the morning and then you take this long subway ride.
Yeah.
But were your parents with you, or was this by yourself?
Initially, yes. When I was, and then after that, my mom was like, "I'm just gonna sleep in, and you're just gonna go by yourself." Yeah.
And then you'd go then to those lessons, and then so this sounds to me like a very busy teacher, a very very like full studio if that's what time you're seeing this teacher, I mean, you smile when you're talking about this experience. So what was it that you felt? I mean, this is kind of a big question, but what, how would you say she helped you, you know, become more true to yourself as a musician, as a pianist?
I think she really changed the way I look at music and my attitude towards it. Like I think she's one of the first teachers that really teaches me how to practice, like how to schedule, because I was getting busy at the time, picking up other instruments, playing the double bass.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about double bass too. Yeah,
so she really teaches me how to manage my time, how to practice, and she is also very good at assigning repertoire that I enjoy playing.
Yes.
Now she tends to focus more on German kind of Austrian side, but I learned a lot of repertoire during those years with her, also she always holds me accountable. I guess. Right. So she is pretty strict in my playing. So because I used to be if I play all the bright notes accurately, I'm good, but she's not having it.
That's how you just start. That's when you're ready to get going. Not when you're done. Yeah.
You're really, working on the artistic side of things. And also the program at the Academy for Performing Arts in general is very well-rounded as well. So on Saturdays, I need to spend the whole day at the Academy where we go to classes on oral skills and musicianship and also choir as well. Yes. So I think the whole education by that point it's very well rounded. So
that's awesome. Yeah. So so you're at you're going through this program and it's really developing. One thing I want to touch on there. So this is also a very very critical skill and it's a life skill, time management.
Yes.
And I think that we often overlook how helpful music teachers can be and working on time management, because those that really want you to succeed, you've got to somehow work this into all these other things. And typically the students that are really dedicated to music have many other things that they're also wanting to do, and you can do those things if you organize your time well, and also then making the best use of that time through the accountability. That's amazing. Well, let's shift into a little bit of okay. So at some point, you've decided to go into music. Now, at what point did you on your journey where you're like, okay, I want to go into music? And were there other things you thought about instead of music as well?
Yeah, I mean, so I always tell people like music by that time has been it's actually still a hobby, but a very serious hobby
Right,
for me. So yes, music has always been in the back of an option, like for example when I go to college. But I'm also very interested in media. So I always thought that I will become like a journalist or reporter at some point. So that and as I remember going to all those reporter competitions as well when I was in like middle school.
Okay.
So we have to write like scripts and then we have to report it. So that's something that I was actually very passionate about as well. But ultimately I chose music because I don't know, I just enjoy the fact of being on stage, sharing music and then performing, and also the communication aspects. I guess I like communicating, so that has something to do with the whole reporter thing.
Right.
And I think music just breaks down all the barriers, even if we don't speak the same language or coming from different culture, you can still connect.
Right. So you've had this desire to communicate.
Yeah.
And then you found that there was fewer barriers, as you said, in music, and that is one of the magical things about it. It transcends time as well. You know, with the which is another whole fascinating thing to discuss. So you decide you're going to go into music, and you end up in the UK.
Yes.
And how did that come about? Like what? And did you consider other places, or was that the only one? And tell me a little bit about that part.
So back then I was only considering UK because, well, first of all, a lot of the teachers in Hong Kong were actually trained in England. So there's already a culture there, and also the history of Hong Kong always has a very good relationship with Britain, the Great Britain.
Right.
So, and also during the time, I think they're still doing it now, but the conservatories in the UK, they actually organize auditions in Hong Kong.
Oh, okay.
So they come to you. You don't have to
very nice.
travel or anything. So the audition was held in the Academy for Performing Arts, which is like my second home by that time. So everything just worked out very well. I don't have to take time off or travel to anywhere. So yes, so that's why I only applied to the schools in UK.
Okay, and then when you went there, you decided to stay there for your master's degree as well,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
So did you study with the same teacher for the bachelor's and master's?
Again, I was with a teacher for 4 years during the undergrads, and then in master's, I was still with that teacher, but the school also allowed studying with another teacher. So I kind of had two teachers at the same time by the time I was in the master's program.
Okay, and I know it's a very, very rigorous program there. And what was it? Again, you're shaping yourself. You're probably learning massive amounts of repertoire, I'm sure, performing all the time and all that. What would you say, like this is again trying to take 6 years and cram it into one question, but what would you say? How did that shape you? That experience in those 6 years?
I think I would say it's life-changing, really, because back before that, I have never lived anywhere but Hong Kong.
Right. Yeah.
So, just taking it out of the music, just like the life, the changing of space aspect, it's already a lot for an 18-year-old.
Yes.
And of course, I've always speak English, but I've never used it primarily. So, and then also there's a lot of like cultural change and things like that. Right. So yes, it was definitely a life-changing experience and something that if I go back again, I would definitely do it again. Yeah. And also I was lucky enough the school was in London, so which is one of the great cities in the world. One of the greatest cities in the world. So I get to experience so much. So many artists will go to perform in London, and the life there, just is incredible. So yes, it was life-changing for sure.
Life-changing. And then when it was time to get your DMA, you went to Cincinnati. Yeah. And had you considered other schools besides Cincinnati, or how did you end up there?
Well, so after I finished my master's, I was thinking about what I can do afterwards. So my plan was actually just to go back to Hong Kong and then start teaching and performing. But back then I had a friend who used to study with the same teachers when I was at the academy in Hong Kong. He was a bit older than me, but he went to CCM, the Cincinnati College Conservatory Music, and he told me about the DMA program in the States. Now, I've never been to the States before at that time. But then I decided to audition for CCM, just so I only applied to one school because I wasn't sure if I wanted to continue. So I kind of just want to put in the application and see how things goes. But they ended up accepting me and giving me the teaching assistantship.
Fantastic.
So so I decided to go there.
Okay. And before we forget, I forgot to ask you again because I like to name drop teachers.
Sure.
So who did you study with in London?
In London, yes. So I was first with Gordon Fergus-Thompson. He is a big artist on Debussy and Grammy. I think he actually recorded the entire Debussy piano works, and it was released by Decca, actually. Yeah. So, and then when I was in masters, I also worked with Leon McCawley. He actually he's a British pianist, but he actually went to school in the States. I think he went to Curtis. So, there's a little bit of, I don't know if it's, yeah. So, so these are the two teachers.
No, I'm a real teacher. I just think teachers are unsung heroes a lot.
Of course,
So then you came to Cincinnati, and who did you work with in Cincinnati?
So in the Cincinnati, I worked with the great James Tocco.
Of course,
yes.
I was waiting. I knew that. I wanted you to name.
Yeah. And I'm still proud to call myself one of his last students because after that he retired during my DMA program.
That's something. He's a legend, and it's it's amazing what body of knowledge these legendary teachers hold, because it's I can get into that some other time a little bit more deeply from my own heritage, I suppose, but it is something to really be honored, to be proud of. Really, truly, it is. And so. What was it like to be in the DMA program? So you're new to America. We speak English here, but not quite the same.
I had to change a few words here and there.
I have to say, you showed us your London accent once, and I was like, wow, that's you really can do both, But probably a little bit of culture shock. I mean, what was it like then to go to the conservatory? And then you were there for 3 years, I think. Is that right?
For 3 years with DMA, but then I stayed for an AD as well.
Oh, okay, that's right.
And that was all because of COVID. So
of course,
it was a weird time when I was doing the DMA.
That's true. Right.
So I felt like, because during the COVID we didn't have class, so I wanted to take a few, maybe 1 or 2 years more of piano lessons before I actually go out into the world. That's why. And they very graciously allowed me to stay for the AD program as well.
Awesome. Well, amazing journey, and of course you're still journeying, right? And you're performing a lot now. Let's switch gears a little bit, and we'll talk a little bit about your current work and what you're practicing these days.
Yes.
I know I've really enjoyed in our professional development sessions. You performed quite a bit, and it was always amazing. You've got a great sense of color. I just love your sense of color, and of course, when you're talking about your fascination with sound,
yes,
I was like, well, that explains why you sound so good. I mean, and I don't mean that like you sound good. I mean, like, truly, the layering and the colors. It's just absolutely gorgeous in your approach. So, what are you able to learn new repertoire these days?
Yes.
Okay, it's kind of harder. I think some people don't realize it's harder to when you start getting out into the quote unquote real world.
Yeah, that's what my teachers always tell me when I was in school. But I didn't understand that back then. I was like, I only need to go to one class, and then I have plenty of time to practice. What are you talking about?
Right. It's funny. Yeah, my teachers told me that too, and I'm glad they, because it can feel like drinking from a fire hose, getting through all that repertoire.
Yeah.
But then very grateful once I got out. But so you are able to learn some new things. So what are you working on these days?
So I'm still keeping the older program because I have some recitals coming up. So the Chopin Rondo,
which is such a great piece. I love it.
Yeah, I'm playing the Grenadals, Vals.
Great.
And obviously, so I'm also learning a lot of repertoire because I'm in a piano duet with my wife. So dual orchid.
Yes.
So dual orchid, we're always trying to find some obscure
Yes,
things
isn't that fun?
to
It's
play
fun
or
hunts,
some
right.
fun arrangements.
So you've got a dual orchid, and we'll be having your wife on the podcast
Yes.
as well. And maybe we should have you both together. We can talk even more about dual
Sure.
orchid, of
Yes.
course, at some point, because that's really a whole other topic. So you're keeping up that is actually, I think, important for people to understand how much mileage you can get out of the repertoire you learn. If it's high quality repertoire in high school and college, it's highly valuable. So to all those out there that are working really hard and cramming music down your you're going to be very grateful for that.
Yes.
It is hard to learn new things, mostly because of time. But and you mentioned some recitals coming up. Are there any pieces that you've like dreamed of playing that you still haven't gotten to yet? Like, what's on your dream list of like, oh, I'd love to play this someday?
Yes. Well, actually, there's actually a lot.
I would imagine
But
so.
I would like to play more concertos,
Yes,
in particular
yes.
With orchestras.
Of course, yes. That does make it a lot better.
Yes, and I think partly because I really enjoy symphonic music.
Yes.
I play an orchestral instrument.
Yes,
as
of
well.
course. Right,
so
right.
and also all the great, like for example, I've done the Tchaikovsky piano concerto, but never with the orchestra.
Oh,
so
well,
if any orchestra wants to
huge.
hit me
Yeah,
up,
definitely. Well, this is a good thing to mention because we have some wonderful orchestras in this area, and featuring local artists is something that I know they would love to do. So, but I'm curious. So give me like your top 3 concertos you have not yet learned that you would like to learn.
Rack 3.
I knew it. I should have put that in an envelope. And because I could sense you were going to say Rock 3. Okay.
Yeah, because I play Rack 2, but not
which is a
Rock
great,
3.
which is amazing. But Rock 3 is like, yeah, totally understand. Okay, Rock 3. Okay.
And I think the Beethoven 4.
Yes,
That's something that I
of
really
course,
want to play.
yes.
Again, I play some other Beethoven
Right,
concerto, but
yeah.
never 4. I guess I was a little intimidated by it almost.
Right, sure.
But certainly a really good piece.
Yeah, it's so funny. They're so different. The Rock Third and the Beethoven. And
Yeah.
you seem a little more like, and I understand why you're a little more trepidatious, if that's a word, about the Beethoven, because it's so precious in some ways, in a sense, right? But okay, so do you have one more? I mean, I know you've probably dabbled in other concertos you want to play. So one more that you that's on your list.
You mean the concertos I've never played before?
Well, yeah, either never played or just something you're kind of dying to play.
Yeah.
That's why so our orchestra people out there can be like, well, guess what? That sounds cool. Let's get Jimmy to play
Now
that.
this one, they're probably not going to be very happy about that.
Okay, let's hear it.
But it's a Chopin first concerto.
Oh, okay. But it's such a great, I understand. So for those that are not aware, Chopin was very kind to us pianists.
Yes.
Did not give a lot to the orchestra, but they're just fabulous pieces. I mean, and audiences do love them, so that's a big thing. Well, that's really thrilling. I didn't get to ask you about bass, but let's talk about a little bit of that before we close. So, so how did you get started with the stand-up bass, and are you still playing now? I guess are the 2 questions.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not playing it now. I should, but it was again. So when we're going into secondary schools in Hong Kong, the school kind of requires everybody to play an instrument, but the piano doesn't count.
Oh, what?
Because they kind of almost like they expect you to play the piano.
Okay, sure.
So I've always wanted to learn a string instrument. I tried violin before I just got violin from my friend. I tried to play it.
Right.
I always find it to be really difficult to even make a sound.
Sure.
And also by the time I was pretty tall when I was 12.
Right.
So
sure.
I was like, let's try the bass. And it was fun because again, it's not a lot. I mean, I guess nowadays a lot more people play the bass now, but back then it wasn't a very popular instrument in Hong Kong. But I learned a lot, really, because coming from a pianist side, I never have to worry about intonation or like vibrato. So that's all very foreign concept to me. And the bass teacher I had was fantastic. I started in a group class. So you can imagine like 5 or 6 basses playing beginner repertoire at the same time. But
I'm imagining a bunch of tortoises trying to make music together. Okay.
But then also because of the bass, I get to play a lot of orchestra repertoire.
Yes.
Bass is because they're rare in Hong Kong, are very busy.
Oh, so you get switched on to
yeah. So I play in regular, just Western orchestra. String orchestra need us.
Right.
Symphonic bands need us.
Yes.
Even the Chinese orchestra wants us.
Okay. Okay. So you got a lot of exposure. That's one thing. I think it's for pianists in particular. You know, doing voice or strings is so amazingly helpful for those those reasons you get, because the piano we create a lot of illusions on the piano, and if you know what you're creating an illusion of,
yes,
you're going to do a much better job. So anyway, I just wanted to touch on that because I didn't even know that you did that. And you mentioned that a few months ago, and I was like, well, that's kind of a cool thing. So thank you so much for this talk. It's been so much fun to talk with you, and thank you for joining us on our talk about Jimmy's journey. And we wish you a great time on your journey as well. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.